The grand chambers of the Zagonian High Council resounded with panicked murmurs. I sat on the obsidian throne, a relic gifted to us by the ancestors, and surveyed the disarray with a grim heart. The news had rippled across the Empire with cataclysmic speed, an ominous transmission from an unknown civilization on the galactic fringe, a warning, or perhaps, a declaration of war. Emperor Karjith. A shrill voice pierced the din. I recognized Zyrax, a counselor from the Science Guild, her normally placid features twisted with fear. They claim superiority. They say they've harnessed powers beyond our understanding. A chorus of gasps and anxious whispers erupted. In the 17 cycles I'd ruled, the Zagonian Empire had never faced a threat like this. We'd expanded uncontested, our advanced fleets conquering star systems with clinical precision. Our citizens had long forgotten the taste of war. Fear, the ancient poison, now threatened to undo my life's work. With a resolute voice, I quelled the rising panic. Calm yourselves. We are Zagonians. From the crucible of chaos, we forged this empire. We've faced annihilation before, and we always survived. My words had a steadying effect, a ripple of determination passing over the petrified faces of the council. Yet, I couldn't fully shake the chilling certainty that echoed in those alien words: surrender, or face oblivion. The warning blared across all channels, a symphony of alien voices. It painted a picture of an empire vast and technologically terrifying, a war machine that dwarfed our own fleets. The unknown aliens, shrouded in self-proclaimed supremacy, demanded immediate integration into their fold or face swift and unrelenting obliteration. Emperor, what are our options? Bellowed General Varak, my most seasoned military commander. His eyes, always burning with the fire of conquest, now held the smallest flicker of uncertainty. A deep breath. Options. Surrender was unthinkable. The very foundation of the Zagonian Empire was built on the unshakable determination to carve our own destiny. We would not bend to any overlord. Our culture of progress, innovation, and ruthless efficiency would be shackled under their dominion. Prepare our defenses, I instructed, my voice as hard as plasma steel. Every able-bodied Zagonian must be mobilized. All shipyards shift production to a war footing. We will not relinquish our empire without a fight to the final breath. The council erupted in a chorus of agreement, the momentary lapse of fear replaced by righteous fury. Across the Zagonian expanse, a war machine I'd spent my life honing shuddered into motion. Our vast resource networks were redirected into the maw of the military. Shipyards flared to life, churning out sleek destroyers and planet-cracking dreadnoughts. Every Zagonian city transformed into a fortress, every citizen a cog in the machinery of defiant survival. I spent tireless hours in the Imperial war chambers, poring over sensor readings and strategic projections. Our scientists strained to understand the nature of this unseen enemy, their technology an enigma we had to solve. The unknown was a far more potent enemy than any battle fleet. With each update, a terrible picture painted itself. The aliens weren't bluffing. Our long-range scans detected ripples of energy on the galactic fringe, the telltale signs of a vast armada mobilizing. The time of defiance was at hand. Emperor, we are as ready as we can possibly be, General Varak declared, his face etched with a grim acceptance of impending war. My reply was a solemn nod: then we shall remind them the cost of underestimating Zagonian resolve. The armada materialized in a blinding flash, an invasion force of staggering proportions. Their immense capital ships blotted out the stars, their alien design a stark testament to a civilization geared solely towards conquest. Sleek fighters swarmed around these behemoths like insects, a vast and terrible cloud. I stood on the ramparts of our capital world, Zirgan Prime, the cold wind whipping against my mantle. Below, the fortified city bristled, a defiant knot of energy shields and weaponry. In the distance, the alien armada glinted with malevolent promise. Through it all, I clung to a sliver of hope. Perhaps they expected us to crumble. Perhaps raw displays of force would convince them we were no threat, and they would turn their gaze to easier prey. Then their transmission cut through the charged silence. Your time is over, Zagonians. Join us, or burn in defiance. There was no hesitation, no veiled diplomacy. Just a cold certainty of extermination. I turned to my people, my voice resounding with unwavering resolve. For centuries, we've built, we've conquered, we've pushed boundaries. Today, we face a challenge like no other. These invaders demand our surrender, our soul. I say no. No. The roar from the gathered Zagonians was deafening, rising as a single, defiant shout. Today, we fight not only for Zirgan Prime, but for the spirit of our civilization. We will show them the price of Zagonian freedom. The first wave of enemy fighters ripped through the sky, their weapons crackling with devastating energy. Yet, even as the heavens became a maelstrom of fire and chaos, the spirit of the Zagonians blazed brighter. Our defensive batteries spat defiance. Missile swarms streaked towards the enemy behemoths, and our own fleet of sleek warships launched a desperate counterattack. I would not lie, the invaders had the clear advantage. Their technology was unsettling, alien. Our warships buckled under the onslaught, their hulls crackling and exploding under relentless firepower. Each fallen vessel, each fallen comrade, twisted a blade in my heart. Yet, there were moments of defiance that pierced even the bleakest despair. Zagonian pilots, outnumbered and outgunned, performed feats of breathtaking bravery. One of our aging dreadnoughts, damaged and out of position, rammed directly into an enemy capital ship, sacrificing itself in a blinding flash that shattered the alien formation. The sheer audacity of it made the invaders pause, just for a moment, as if their relentless advance had hit an unexpected snag. From the obsidian throne, I fought my own battle. With each frantic order and counter-order, I grappled with the cold reality that Zirgan Prime's defenses, for all their might, were crumbling. The enemy fleet pushed inexorably inward, carving a path of destruction towards the heart of our world. Reports flooded in, sector defenses overrun, cities burning, brave Zagonians falling by the thousands. Emperor Karjith. Councillor Zyrak scrambled into the Imperial war chambers, her face streaked with tears and soot. Project Starlight is ready. But at a terrible cost. My heart plummeted. Project Starlight. A desperate gamble, a last-ditch weapon born in the depths of our desperation. Our best scientists had theorized it was possible to harness the raw power of a dying star, weaponize its final gasp into a blast that could obliterate an entire fleet. But the theory was just that, a theory, never tested, with a horrifying potential for failure. The cost? Zyrax? My voice faltered, unwilling to hear the extent of those terrible sacrifices. The star. It will destabilize earlier than projected. The entire sector will be. She choked, unable to finish. I closed my eyes. An entire star system, several planets, millions of innocent lives. Sacrificed to buy us a fighting chance. But was it even a chance, or merely a desperate extension of our inevitable end? My fingernails dug into the armrests of the obsidian throne. Choices of a damned emperor. Do it. The words scraped my throat raw. Councillor Zyrax turned and sprinted out, her form swallowed by the chaos just beyond the chamber doors. It felt like an eternity before the sensor readings in the Imperial war chambers began to twist and warp. The dying star, forced into its premature demise, rippled and spasmed. Then came a flare of energy so intense, so raw, it blinded even our shielded instruments. When the light faded, a terrible silence hung in the air. I forced myself to look at the strategic projection. There was a hole in the enemy armada, a void of shattered ships and fading energy signatures. The heart of their attack force had been gutted, vaporized by the unleashed fury of a collapsing star. We had struck a devastating blow, but was it enough? General Varax stumbled into the war chambers, his once immaculate uniform scorched and torn. Emperor. The attack falters. We have a chance. But then his gaze drifted to the projection behind me, and his eyes hardened. At what cost, Karjith? At what cost? I had no answer. The weight of extinguished lives crushed my soul. Yet, Varak was right. This terrible sacrifice had brought us a glimmer of hope, and now, we would claw and scrape to make that glimmer into something more. Rally whatever forces we have left. Push back. Make every damned shot count. With renewed resolve, I threw myself back into the desperate symphony of battle. Hour after hour, we clawed back territory. Zagonian warships, though battered and reduced in number, turned with unexpected ferocity. Our pilots, fueled by a mix of unyielding pride and despair, transformed their fighters into steel hornets stinging the wounded alien giant. The invaders, taken aback by our tenacity, stumbled. Their once unstoppable advance faltered, grinding into a brutal slog for every orbital ring, every city sector. In the heart of the chaos, aboard my flagship, the Emperor's Resolve, I rallied our warriors. My battle armor was dented, the once pristine emblems of authority blackened by battle. Yet, my voice found the cutting edge it needed. Zagonians. We have paid in blood and fire, and still, we endure. Our empire may lie in ruins, but our spirit burns brighter than ever. They wanted to conquer us? Let them come. We will choke them on every inch of our devastated world. A ragged, Desperate cheer erupted from the exhausted crew. We might be losing, we might be on the verge of annihilation, but the Zagonians would not die kneeling. Then, it happened. A crackle over the calm system. Static. Then an alien voice, tinged with an unfamiliar edge. Hesitation, perhaps? Or even a hint of uncertainty? Cease your resistance. Further combat is illogical. The cost outweighs the potential gain. The transmission was filled with alien syntax, clipped and emotionless. Yet, the meaning was clear. Their relentless attack wavered. The fleet that had, moments ago, seemed poised to crush us into oblivion, began to pull back. Not in retreat, but in reassessment. I stared out of the viewport, the once vibrant Zirgan Prime a smoldering husk below. Sorrow threatened to drown me, but I fought it back. We had survived. We had battered and bruised our foe, made them blink, made them question their own thirst for domination. A fragile silence blanketed Zirgan Prime. I stood amidst the wreckage of the Imperial war chambers, the acrid smell of plasma and scorched metal thick in the air. Around me, battered council members and generals gathered, their faces mirroring my own mix of exhaustion, grief, and a flicker of cold defiance. Emperor. It was Zyrax, her normally steady voice cracking with fatigue. They're requesting communication. A diplomatic channel. I blinked, processing the unexpected turn of events. They wish to negotiate? So it seems, she confirmed. Though the wording is strange. An acknowledgement of our unanticipated resilience. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. Resilience? Was that what this carnage was? The cost in countless lives, our beloved homeworld in ruins. But then, a tendril of something akin to hope pushed through my despair. Had we finally broken their spirit? Very well. Prepare a secure channel, I commanded, my voice regaining its imperial steel. However, be warned. This might be a delaying tactic, a final insult before they unleash another, decisive blow. An hour later, I found myself not on the obsidian throne but within a makeshift command center. The alien visage that filled our display was nothing like what I'd anticipated. Instead of a monstrous warlord, I saw a creature of fragile build encased in an intricate environmental suit. Its large, multifaceted eyes conveyed not cold aggression, but calculation. Greetings, Emperor Karjith. Its voice, filtered through the translator, was oddly flat, devoid of the arrogance it had carried before. We are the Vekari. Circumstances have altered our assessment. I fought to keep my face impassive, my mind whirling. Were these the overlords who had demanded our submission? Or was something more complex at play? Altered your assessment? I asked, keeping my tone dangerous. Do you now admit your error in underestimating Zagonian resolve? The Vekari being tilted its head, a gesture unnervingly bird-like. Error? No. Our objectives remain, but the efficiency of methods has been recalculated. Your civilization possesses a level of self-destructive determination that renders conquest illogical. Illogical? General Varak growled, unable to contain his fury. You invade us, destroy our world, and now you speak of logic? The Vekari remained unmoved. Logic dictates that where the cost of conquest outweighs the benefit, adaptation is necessary. You possess no resources we require, no technology we cannot replicate eventually. Annihilation of a species capable of such resistance defies efficiency. My mind raced. Were these words a ploy, a way to demoralize us before a final strike? Or was there an unsettling truth within this alien logic? Had they expected easy conquest? Did they truly measure everything in pure, calculated efficiency? Your adaptation, as you call it. Does this mean peace? I pressed. Peace is a relative term. The Vekari being seemed to choose its words with unsettling precision. Conflict is inefficient. Your empire is greatly diminished. Our objectives can better be achieved through integration. A chill ran down my spine. Integration, a softer word, but a chilling prospect. It meant subjugation, the loss of all we held dear. Yet, the alternative. Was it to become an ember amidst the ruins of Zirgan Prime, defiant yet irrelevant? The Vekari observed our silence. We understand the Zagonian pride in self-determination. Therefore, we propose a concession. It paused, a strange ripple passing across its face. A competition. A test of your will as a civilization. Succeed, and you retain a measure of autonomy. Fail, and integration will proceed. A test? I echoed, immediately wary. Indeed. We shall provide details at a designated time, it continued, its voice gaining a hint of what I could almost interpret as satisfaction. It will not be a test of strength or military might, but of that indomitable spirit that surprised us. Prepare yourselves, Emperor. The Vekari enjoy efficiency. And a challenge. Before I could demand further answers, the transmission cut off, leaving us with a mixture of confusion, anger, and a perverse thread of curiosity. A test. A competition. It was alien in every sense of the word, and yet, was it a lifeline? A chance to avoid being crushed into complete subservience? With grim determination, I turned to my battered council. Gather survivors from the Science Guild, the greatest minds that remain to us. It seems our war is not yet over, merely transformed. And so, the Zagonian Empire, broken but not utterly defeated, faced a new, unprecedented struggle. It was a test devised by an alien mind, a competition with our very civilization hanging in the balance. Survival may be possible, but the Zagonian spirit would be pushed to its absolute limit, not across the battlefield, but in a way we could never have foreseen. Weeks bled into months. The desolate ruins of our cities became a warped breeding ground for both despair and the strangest form of determination I'd ever encountered. Zagonian ingenuity, once aimed at conquering stars, now turned inwards. We had to unravel the Vekari test, whatever it was, and find a way to win. Not through force of arms, but with the cunning of a people backed into a corner. Teams of scientists and scholars huddled with survivors from every walk of life, philosophers, linguists, even the artists we'd once considered frivolous. We dissected every word of the Vekari transmission, scrutinized their actions throughout the invasion, seeking patterns that betrayed their core logic. They value efficiency above all, Councillor Zyrax reiterated for the 100th time. Emotion seems absent, save for a hint of satisfaction at an unexpected challenge. But what kind of challenge? General Varak's scarred face was a mask of grim frustration. Are these some perverse games they play across the galaxy? Then it arrived, a simple data packet from the Vekari with the test details. To our shock, it wasn't some military simulation or a complex technological puzzle. No, the Vekari wanted us to rebuild. The task: transform one of our ravaged moons into a self-sustaining, resource-efficient colony within a single cycle. The criteria were maddeningly specific: optimize population density, renewable energy sources, food production, waste management. 100 tiny factors, all feeding into a brutally precise efficiency metric. They want to make us city planners? Varak scoffed, his voice dripping with disgust. But it was then, deep within the ruins of our fallen empire, that I finally understood. The Vekari weren't conquerors for cruelty's sake. They were galactic auditors. Their obsession with efficiency was a form of conquest, a way of streamlining entire worlds into their model of existence. And they had found in the Zagonians something unexpected, a raw defiant spark that threw a wrench into their calculations. The test was their way of breaking us, not with bombs, but with bureaucracy. If we succeeded, we'd prove valuable enough to retain some autonomy, but also malleable, conforming to their ideals. If we failed, well, they'd have the perfect justification for complete subjugation. This was a war for our very soul, fought not with spaceships but with blueprints and population growth charts. Despair became an enemy as insidious as any invading force. Yet, the Zagonians are nothing if not adaptable. Architects turned scavengers, finding scraps within the rubble to create sustainable structures. Biologists designed efficient closed-loop food production cycles with the scant flora and fauna that had survived the onslaught. Every Zagonian, from the hardened soldier to the grieving civilian, was given a role, a contribution to make towards this bizarre collective goal. The ravaged moon became a microcosm of the Zagonian spirit, bloodied, battered, yet relentlessly focused. Each success, each efficiency milestone achieved, was a small victory, a defiant flicker against the overwhelming specter of Vekari domination. I, too, adapted my role. No longer a warrior emperor, but a coordinator, a motivator. I relayed progress updates crafted to feed our people's hunger for even the smallest signs of defiance. I walked the makeshift colony myself, witnessing the ingenuity in every repurposed piece of metal, the unbreakable wool woven into the fabric of our survival. As the cycle neared its end, an air of grim determination hung over the colony. We'd done well, perhaps even exceeding the Vekari's cold expectations, but would it be enough? The Vekari arrived not with fleets or soldiers, but with a lone observer ship. The same alien figure emerged, and though I loathed the sight of it, I had to admit a grudging sliver of respect. They had nearly destroyed us, yet kept their word about the test. Days were spent with the Vekari observer meticulously monitoring every aspect of our colony, scrutinizing every data point. When they finally deigned to address us, the creature's voice remained devoid of all but the barest calculation. Your results are acceptable. You have met the primary efficiency thresholds. Signs of innovative adaptation within limitations. Promising. Though every Zagonian heart burned with the desire to tear this creature apart, we kept our fury leashed. This was a game, and we had to play it by their rules. Therefore, it continued, as stated, a degree of autonomy will be permitted. The Zagonian Empire will exist as a tributary state. Tributary. A softer word for subjugation. Yet, within it, there was a flicker of survival. We had not been extinguished, as so many civilizations undoubtedly had been across the Vekari's path. However, the creature continued, its multifaceted eyes glinting. The Vekari enjoy optimization. Further refinements can be made. Integration in stages would yield significant gains in efficiency. It was a threat wrapped in a tempting offer. Conform, and perhaps some semblance of a Zagonian identity might persist, might thrive even at the cost of becoming mere cogs in the Vekari machine. The decision was mine, the weight of our civilization heavy on my shoulders. Yet, amidst the ruins, bloodied but breathing, I knew the answer. We reject your integration, I said, my voice echoing across the desolate moon. We will survive on our own terms, even if it takes 1,000 cycles to rebuild. Zagonians will never yield our spirit. The Vekari observer tilted its head. That strange ripple of satisfaction ran across its face again. And then, the unthinkable, the barest hint of a nod. Acknowledged. Your determination remains unexpected. It will be factored into future calculations. Monitor your channels for trade directives. With that, it turned and departed. For long moments, a stunned silence hung in the air. Then, a roar erupted from the assembled Zagonians, a roar not of victory, but of defiance, of survival, of a wounded civilization that refused to die. The years that followed were a strange purgatory. We were, technically, alive. Our cities began to rise from the ashes, but always with a Vekari-approved blueprint in hand. Trade directives arrived, cold and efficient, raw materials we were to extract, technologies we were forbidden to develop. Their aim was clear, to mold a broken Zagonian empire into a useful, profitable cog within their vast interstellar machine. The worst of it, as always, was the waiting. The constant, looming presence of the Vekari, their occasional observation vessels a chilling reminder of our tributary status. Every child born in this new era never knew true Zagonian freedom, only the echoes of it in their elders' stories. My once proud warriors became enforcers for our alien overlords, ensuring production quotas were met. Zagonian scientists, our best minds, were steered into approved fields, their brilliance dulled and refocused. Yet, beneath the surface obedience, resentment simmered, a dangerous, hungry fire. I walked a razor's edge. Publicly, I preached efficiency, echoing the sterile Vekari values thrust upon us. Privately, within a trusted circle of survivors, we plotted. We had to learn everything we could about these calculating conquerors, find a weakness, a fault line that could be exploited. Then, an unexpected opportunity arose. A routine Vekari trade vessel malfunctioned, crash landing deep within our territory. The crash site was quickly quarantined, but not before a whisper spread, the ship's data banks were intact. This was our chance. Under the guise of compliance, I mobilized a team comprised of scientists, linguists, even a former shipbreaker with a knack for dismantling tech. Reaching the wreck under Vekari guard was its own challenge, a high-stakes game of veiled intentions. Once there, our experts worked tirelessly, dissecting the alien ship's systems with painstaking care. Days turned into a tense, sleepless blur. I hovered near the makeshift lab, my nerves taut as starship cables. We weren't just scavenging technology, we were performing an autopsy on the Vekari mind. Finally, a breakthrough came. Emperor. The young scientist's face was alight, even smudged with engine grease. Their communications network. It's not as perfect as they boast. Bursts of unencrypted data, amidst the structured traffic. Meaning? My heart pounded. Meaning, slip-ups, internal communications they assume remain hidden. If we can tap into it, it's like overhearing the whispers behind the curtain. The potential was staggering. We redoubled our efforts, piecing together scavenged Vekari tech. It was a long shot, but within weeks, we had a crude listening device, a defiant ear pressed against the belly of the beast. What we heard both horrified and galvanized us. The Vekari weren't the monolithic force we'd imagined. Factions existed within their vast empire, disagreements masked beneath the surface focus on efficiency. Most importantly, their expansion was running into unexpected resistance on multiple fronts. Resources were stretched thin, and for the first time, we heard a word once considered impossible amongst the Vekari: compromise. It was a small crack, a fissure in their seemingly impenetrable armor. And like water eroding stone, we would exploit this knowledge. I returned to my public role, a mask of subservience firmly in place. Zagonian production quotas were not just met, but gradually exceeded. Trade was conducted with meticulous care, giving the Vekari the illusion of a contented, if lesser, civilization. Every interaction became a calculated play for trust. Slowly, ever so slowly, restrictions began to ease. Oversight became less stringent, access to slightly more advanced technology was permitted. The Vekari, in their arrogance, interpreted this as the successful taming of the once defiant Zagonians. They were wrong. Underneath the facade, a different kind of rebuilding was underway. We funneled resources into shielded enclaves, where those brilliant minds permitted to conduct their research turned their focus towards weapons development. Zagonian pride, once a flamboyant display of conquest, was smelted and reforged into a cold, determined silence. When the call finally came, it wasn't glorious. There was no grand, defiant stand against our oppressors. Instead, it arrived as a routine summons, an invitation for me, the compliant tributary leader, to attend a Vekari conclave. Standing before the gathered Vekari, I no longer felt like a broken emperor, but a predator playing the part of prey. They spoke of trade pacts, resource optimization, the Zagonian Empire as a success story of integration. And beneath it all, I heard the unspoken: you are useful, manageable, expendable. I bowed my head, played along with the charade. Then, as the conclave adjourned, I offered the Vekari a gift: a demonstration of Zagonian ingenuity within the bounds they had set. A new power generation system, supposedly far more efficient than our existing ones. Their avaricious eyes glittered with interest. Demonstrations were planned, dignitaries gathered. And when that prototype power system overloaded, spectacularly vaporizing a chunk of their delegation, it wasn't an accident. It was a declaration of war. The Zagonians were coming, not as the desperate survivors of a brutal invasion, but as the long-dormant storm unleashed. Because the Vekari, in their drive for calculated perfection, had made a fatal error. They had underestimated the boundless capacity for vengeance that lies within the heart of a cornered people. Chaos reigned. The carefully cultivated facade of subservience shattered into 1,000 shards of rage. Across occupied Zagonian territories, stockpiles of hidden weapons were unleashed, hardened veterans revealing themselves from beneath the guise of obedient workers. Vekari garrisons, complacent in their assumed superiority, were caught entirely off guard. The reconquest was brutal, fueled by an anger simmering under the surface for years. Zagonian warships, forged in secret and retrofitted with the fruits of our clandestine research, tore into Vekari fleets with a ferocity born of desperation. I myself stood on the bridge of the Emperor's resolve, my battle armor gleaming not with imperial splendor, but with the tarnish of forced restraint, ready to wash it away in the blood of our oppressors. News of our rebellion echoed through the Vekari-controlled space. Some worlds, long subdued, faltered, hope reigniting in the hearts of subjugated civilizations. Others, cowed beyond resistance, looked on in dread, fearing the reprisal our defiance would bring upon them. Yet, the war we waged was far from a glorious reconquest. We'd tasted the bitter fruit of occupation, and it had changed us. The Zagonians fought not just for freedom, but with a hard, ruthless edge. Prisoners were few, mercy even scarcer. We'd spent precious years playing the Vekari game. Now we played by our own rules, and those rules were written in fire and retribution. Word of the Zagonian resurgence reached the Vekari homeworld. Their response was swift and chillingly efficient. It was not a fleet they mobilized, but a weapon. Sensor readings spiked, reality itself twisting around the heart of their territory. Emperor. General Varak's voice crackled over the comms, laced with a fear I had never heard in the gruff warrior. They're activating a stellar destabilizer. Horror washed over me. Stellar destabilization, the controlled implosion of a star. A weapon so horrific in scale and consequence, it was rumored to be banned under some ancient galactic compact. But desperation breeds monstrous acts, and the Vekari always calculated their actions with cold logic. sacrificing a star system to snuff out a defiant rebellion fit perfectly into their ruthless paradigm. As if to underline their determination, a final Vekari transmission reached us, a death sentence for our upstart defiance. You have proven persistently inefficient. Termination procedures have been initiated. Your legacy will be a stark lesson in the futility of resistance. Then the signal was extinguished, leaving us staring at sensor displays that painted a doomsday scenario. The Vekari home system was flaring with unstable energy, the star at its heart swelling with the promise of imminent, catastrophic death. The ensuing blast wave would incinerate not only the remaining Zagonian fleet, but likely engulf all surrounding star systems, collateral damage deemed acceptable in the Vekari calculus of survival. We were not just facing defeat, but obliteration at a cosmic scale. Ships scrambled to calculate escape vectors, but most would be caught in the cataclysm. We were trapped, our rebellion ending not in a triumphant roar, but in the echoing silence of approaching annihilation. My people turned to me, their faces etched with terror, with a desperate flicker of defiance, a final plea for a miracle I could not provide. For the briefest flicker of time, I considered surrender. Perhaps a pathetic appeal for mercy might buy us a fraction more time, another slim chance at survival. But even as the thought formed, I knew it was folly. The Vekari would only see it as confirmation of their superiority, a final validation of their methods. And surrender now, after all we had endured, all we had sacrificed. It would break something essential within the soul of our civilization. Attention all Zagonian vessels. My voice boomed through every comms channel, pushing through the rising tide of despair. The Vekari may believe they have sealed our fate, but the spirit of our civilization cannot be extinguished by a dying star. I paused, my gaze sweeping across the bridge filled with warriors awaiting my command. They believe in cold efficiency, in absolute subjugation. We will show them what can be achieved through sheer, unyielding defiance. A primal roar answered me, echoing through every ship in the embattled fleet. It was the defiant howl of a doomed people, yet within it, a sliver of something the Vekari could never comprehend. And then, the unthinkable, the Zagonian fleet shifted its course. Emperor. We're on a direct intercept with a destabilized star system. Varak's voice was thick with shock. Are we retreating into the blast radius? No, General, I replied, my voice a blade forged in desperate resolve. We are not retreating. We are attacking.